Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bankroll Burners, the podcast for poker players who can't stop getting it in bad. And boy, did I get it in bad this week. This is I've been burning some money, which naturally means that Josh, I think you've had a pretty good week, right?
Absolutely, had a great week. I ran just red hot and I played. Just got back from a 2-5 session. Took a shot after having a big 1-3 win earlier this week. Crushed the 2-5 session.
Sweet.
It was like I started it off by just making an absolutely atrocious call and was punished correctly for it, and then just scooped multiple bomb pots, which is I talk about this with other folks who kind of rotate around the New England casino landscape, where it's like, wow, when you play at Chasers and you're doing 4 bomb pots an hour, it's like, man, when you run good, you're like, yeah, keep them coming, and when you run bad, you're like, wow, that's another $15, like at minimum, assuming you didn't even call. It's like, so it's but I still think that, they're great for the game. It was nice to see the table doing 2-5 game was awesome. Lot of people who were just there to have fun, play some cards, and a few people who were definitely a bit more serious about the game had a pretty good understanding. So
Sweet. Yeah, it's nice, I think, for all our listeners out there to see that even donks like us can occasionally run good and rack up a big win. So.
Yeah, and I would say 2-5 really, and 2-5 is like the biggest game that they run in the card rooms in New Hampshire, and even that game is really, from what I understand, and from the one time I played 2-5 at Encore, I think the 2-5 in New Hampshire is less reg infested than the 2-5 at Encore, even though Encore runs a 5-10 and a 10-25 hold'em game.
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes some sense. Being like in Boston, I know Encore technically isn't in Boston proper, but it's in Boston. I think that makes a big difference, as you probably got a lot more like nerds, college kid nerds coming and playing. So
definitely.
Yeah.
And versus, the New Hampshire rooms, you have a lot more people who are just there because that's like their local room. They want to play cards, and that's where to do it. And it definitely translates really well into good 1-3 and 2-5 games. Like I said, definitely a few people who I recognize as being like, I don't know if they're crushers, but definitely studious players. I haven't talked to them about their win rate or anything silly like that, but definitely less so than.
Poker players love it when you ask them their hourly.
Whereas when I played the 1 or 2 times I played 2-5 at Encore, it's pretty much been like 1 or 2 action players and then like a bunch of rocks, which is just not at all the table you want.
It's terrible.
Well, I'm happy to go first. I don't think the hand I have is particularly. Well, it actually is kind of interesting.
Well, before we get started, I hope it's interesting. Before we get started, I just want to let our listeners know we do have a guest coming on in the second half of the show, a returning guest. That's our friend Korn, who plays some much higher stakes than we do. So we're very excited to talk about another hand with him. So look forward to that. But yeah, go ahead, Josh. So is this from your today's session?
I'm gonna do one from today's sessions. This is 2-5 at Chasers. This is the only game I've played in with a must-move structure because, it's usually for a higher stakes game, typically reserved. But that's kind of like, again, it's the highest stakes game, other than like the 2-2 PLO game that definitely has more money on the table. But yes, we're playing 2-5. The straddle is on intermittently. I didn't start off straddling. I'm happy. I don't mind admitting because it was a bigger game for me, and going straight from 1-3 to 2-5-10 is quite a jump. But once I got a little bit of money and hands under my belt, then I was ready to kind of bump it up.
Yeah, no, I'm sure. Understandable. I guess a couple questions. First of all, what's the structure of this game? What's the buy-in cap?
So I think it's 200 to 1,000 is the buy-in cap. So I was in for 500, which is 100 big blinds, and lost that. Rebought in for another 500 and ran that up. So it's interesting. It's kind of weird because like 500 is what I'd normally buy into a 1-3 game for. So it's like the same buy-in, but like the game does get bigger. It doesn't take you as far. It's a lot easier to get in $500 in 2-5 than it is to 1-3, especially because there were still quite a lot of multi-way pots in this game.
And yeah, I'm sure. And I guess the other question is, what's the standard open in this game?
It kind of ranged. I don't even know if there was a standard open. Different players just kind of did different things. Some people raised to 15, some people raised to 20, some people raised to like 35. Like it just was it was very much people kind of did what they wanted. I kind of just settled back to 15. Again, even though it's kind of the same open I do at 1-3, it's like actually because that open didn't seem to incite as much multi-way like calling as like raising to 9 at 1-3 would like, and maybe that's because there are a few more solid players and not as much overcalling, and but I kind of felt like 15 was okay. 20 sometimes, but it kind of depended on the players and the action. But weirdly, like the open sizes kind of came out the same, but then there wound up being more 3-betting and 4-betting, so the pot still built quite a bit.
Cool. All right, so yeah, let's get into it. What's the effective stacks in this hand?
Yeah, so the effective stacks here is going to be about 600 in a 2-5 game, so just over 100 big blinds, and this game, I would say, actually got very, very deep, especially in the main game. People had like quite a bit in front of them. There were several hands where I was like 2K, 2.5K effective with the villains. Did not wind up really getting it in with those villains. Had some opportunities, but made what I think are wise folds at the time, given my specific hands and villain tendencies, but. Just a bit over 100, and pretty much everyone is in for at least 500 in this game, which is just fantastic. So in this hand, I believe we're playing 6-handed. People are kind of up and about. Definitely a varying handed structure, but Chasers is 8 max, which is just also wonderful. Like that a lot more than the 9 max at Encore. The cutoff is going to lead this hand by limping. I then raise to 20 from the button with 8-7 of clubs. I'm on the button. I like suited connectors. I certainly could overlimp, and there's can overlimp this hand, but I think 7-8 is a good one with just one limp and from kind of a tight structure.
Yeah, I don't think I would ever limp this hand from the button over one limp. I think this is just a must raise, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. And if I see a gap where I might limp it, might fold it. You can kind of mix in these low stakes games because there's still not that much raising compared to like what you might expect from a higher stakes game. But yes, I agree. I would be raised. I do like to raise 8-7 suited. If there's like more limps, then I might give more thought to over limping. But from the button, I'm probably still raising, to be honest.
Okay. All right. So what happens?
The big blind calls and then the cutoff limper calls. The cutoff is the player who's definitely been limping the most. There's been a solid amount of limping in this game, definitely more than I expected. Especially because several of the players that I played with kind of tended towards being like more aggressive, like loose aggressive players. So I was kind of surprised to see a decent amount of limping, but this player in particular limped a lot, and then he definitely has some good capabilities post flop.
Okay.
So off to the flop, which comes down pretty interesting one, pretty dry. It's gonna come down. Queen 8 deuce rainbow, no club. So club. Queen of diamonds, 8 of hearts, deuce of spades. So we flop middle pair on a pretty dry board, with in a multi-way pot, and it checks to me.
Okay. Well, obviously heads up. This is a mandatory bet, but I do think multi-way we could probably mix in some checking here.
Yeah, absolutely. I elect to check back this one, but I kind of thinking about it more. I think I kind of like betting. Like I think the flop's just so dry. People really shouldn't have like pocket pairs above an 8. So really, the only hand that's beating me at this point is like a queen. And like there are a lot of hands that like have a bunch of equity against me that I'm either never going to get value from, or have options to catch up. Hands like King 9, Ace 10, stuff like that honestly people probably should continue with but won't.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you can really go either way between a bet or a check here. Like you could just randomize it. I don't know what the like percentages are supposed to be, but I really don't think it can be bad to check here. I mean, the one thing about checking obviously is there's a lot of overcards that can come out, and that'll catch some people. That'll give some people a higher pair than you, but it'll also bring in some more draws that you can get value from on a turn. So, if it checks to you again on the turn, you can probably bet your 8 for value, assuming, I guess unless your opponents are very liable to check raise. But so I don't know. I think you can go either way though. I really do.
Yep, I think that's fair, but I like to check. this time around. I see your point, and I definitely would. I think I would definitely bet with like a backdoor. 7-8 of diamonds, 7-8 of spades, hands that have a little bit of additional equity. So maybe it's just always fine to check back your hand without that equity.
Sure.
Who knows? Not
although
us.
it's possible that you might want to check those hands more because you don't want to get blown off your equity too. That's another consideration.
That's true. Although I don't expect my opponents to do a whole lot of check raising on a board like this.
Sure.
But certainly could happen. So the turn is now not a great one. It's the 9 of clubs, which completes the rainbow and adds an overcard. And now the big blind checks, and the cutoff bets 20.
20 into 60-ish.
Yep,
right.
20 into 60. So about a third pot, and I think I probably have to continue here with a pair.
Yeah, I don't think you can fold. Do you think raising is a consideration here? I mean, you could if he's picked up Jack 10 as an open ender.
Well, Jack 10 is now a straight. It would be worth noting.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
So there aren't really a whole lot of draws. Like King 10, Ace 10,
7-6,
King Jack, stuff like that maybe. But I don't really feel a need to raise there because also I feel like he can continue barreling and maybe we can call some good rivers depending on sizing.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It's a question. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a question can you get value from worse with a raise?
And I don't know. I guess I see your point that sure, I'd probably get called by 6-7, King Jack, stuff like that. So maybe, but I mean there also are definitely a lot of 9x hands, some queen x hands that our opponent might be betting because they might figure, and probably rightly so, that I am betting a queen a lot on this flop. And I think I am. I mean, I might check back some really bad queens. I probably aren't. I've been trying not to open hands queen 4, queen 3, queen deuce suited over limps.
Personal growth arc.
Would you say that's yes? Yeah, exactly. I literally did. Or in this particular session, I looked down at queen 4 and my fingers just started assembling chips, and then I was like, no, and folded.
Bad, Josh. Fold this hand.
So I was very, very glad to do that. But so that means I really don't have that many bad queens. I guess is my point, that I would want to be checking back here. Maybe queen 9, queen 10 on the flop.
Yeah, I mean, I also think you actually can check some good queens on the flop too, but just because of the multi-way nature of the pot. But that being said, I mean, if you think that he's bluffing and he'll continue to barrel on future streets. I mean, look, it's not like you have the best hand in the world to call down with. To be fair, I don't know. I think calling is probably fine. I do think it will suck if the big blind player calls behind you, whereas. Even if he just calls with some sort of draw, I mean, you're just going to the river with so much less equity. Whereas if you raise here, that's another benefit of raising is you do clean up the big blind's equity a bit more, and then again, you can get value from worse by doing that. I don't know, but I don't. Obviously, calling is fine. I'm just trying to think this through.
No, that's a good point, and I don't think I maybe gave raising as much credence as I should have. I kind of. Proceeded with a call pretty quickly, but definitely could have given some thought to raising for value. But I don't know. It might be a little loose. But that might be okay.
I think it's very thin, to be clear, raising with third pair on the turn. The main reason I thought of it again is just cleaning up the big blind's equity. It's I don't know if this is a valid concept. To me, I think about it as buying some equity in the pot by raising there. If you're not up against a queen or if you're not up against a queen or a 9,
you want to get a heads up, and that's true. I have been making efforts to do that, and I think that's something especially that I've been trying to apply in bomb pots, where it's there's a bet and a call, and you have a decent hand, a good hand, or whether it's a really good hand on one board or top pair on both boards or something, and just raising to try and get it heads up, because people just show up, especially in a double board bomb pot where people show up with just might call one bet with a gutter on one board, and you just kind of want to clean up some of that equity, get it heads up, and maybe people will even fold a better hand than you if you're only playing one board, which is just kind of an interesting thought, and definitely something I've been trying to do more of. So it's a good point to kind of think of here as well.
Yeah, and obviously too, if you raise, like you could be value owning yourself here. I mean, that's
But that's life, right? We'd probably make a small raise, again, just kind of try and kick the big blind out. But it doesn't actually matter because we make a call on big blind snap fold. So,
okay.
It winds up really not being a big deal, but definitely something to think about, and I mean, honestly, like, if we raise, maybe he even like folds a bad 9 sometimes,
Sure,
that's
a bit of a combo bet.
Yeah, it's actually, it's like interesting. Like, I don't think it would be right for him to fold a 9 given when we check back the flop, but like they might.
You might.
Yeah, live
I wouldn't
players.
raise to try to get him to fold a 9.
No, we're not. But it is like an unintended side effect, right? Side effects may include your opponent's folding a 9.
That'd be pretty sweet.
Well, we're off to the river, and I think the river is kind of where the hand gets very interesting as the river rolls off another 9. Let's call it the 9 of diamonds. It's a full rainbow board, so it doesn't ultimately matter. And my opponent now bets 150.
150 into 100.
Yeah, he overbets the pot, which is like you're in 2-5 now, baby. You know how many overbets I've seen at 1-3? Probably like 0.
I also don't like this overbet at all. I mean, it's cool that he's doing it, but like, you are absolutely can have 9x here. Like,
yeah,
not any less than he can. Like, he has absolutely no nut advantage on this card whatsoever.
Right. If I'm gonna check back queens on the flop, it's like queen 9.
Right. Sometimes you're going to check back queens. You can have queen 9. The only thing he has on you that is, he can probably have, like, in theory, he can probably have pocket 8s and it was a 4, right? It was the bottom card.
Deuce. But yeah, I mean, he can have deuces more. I don't think 8s, though. I mean, I think I'm always raising 8s from the button over a limp. Well,
but are you not? But I just don't think you're checking back 8s.
Oh, that's true. You're right. Yes.
So I think like but you have a nut. If neither of you have a nut advantage or you have a slight nut advantage, I think there's a terrible overbet. But I do think you could just muck here, like.
Yeah. See, I think that as we kind of talked through the hand, this kind of helped me realize that I really, and as I was thinking about this hand after, I was like, this is probably just like a snap muck. But as I was thinking about it in game, it's like, well, I don't really have that many better hands that I've played this way, because like, I feel like I do want to be betting like my good queens, right? Like definitely ace, queen, king, queen, queens.
But you can have a 9.
That's true. I guess I can have 9s.
Have so much 9x. You can have ace 9, king 9, queen 9, jack 9. Like, you have so many 9s.
Yes, although jack 9, I mean, a lot of those 9s, especially with backdoors, I'm also like betting on the flop.
But not always, right? You are going to check, like, you're probably mixing a lot of them.
Yeah,
like,
that's true.
And you can even have, like, you can have boats, you can have trips, you can have, like, even a crappy queen is a fine call because you're blocking some boats. Like, but I probably would fold the queen, to be honest with you.
Well, like, and I actually think an 8 is probably a better call than a queen, because like, I think especially like hands like 8-7, 10-8, like also block like 9x hands.
Sure.
Which is good, like compared to having like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean maybe you have a better call than a queen here, but also you just don't have to call that much. Like,
right.
he's 1.5xing the pot. You can have 9s here. I mean, if you have a weak 9, you can just call. Obviously, if you have a boat, you can raise. You might even be able to. You probably don't raise ace 9, but you can raise your boats. You can call your 9s. Like, I think this is just a muck. I think it's a bad bet from him, and I think this is always value. Also, I don't really think this is much bluff.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and I don't know why I wasn't really thinking of like, oh, I can also have 9x that like checked back the flop, because yeah, like totally can.
You missed.
Because you're right. I mean, again, like a lot. The other thing I was kind of thinking as well, a lot of 9x's kind of wind up being draws, like 9-10, jack 9. I mean, king 9 is like double backdoors a lot of the time. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like can definitely have 9. So I don't know why I was thinking this, but anyway, I call.
I actually think he has a boat here a lot, by the way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I feel like he would bet bigger on the turn, potentially.
If he just had a set?
Yeah.
Possibly.
That's people.
But if he just had 2 pairs, I don't know. Yeah, you're right. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just has a 9. I don't know. But either way, I just think we could fold this hand. Even if he's bluffing here sometimes. I mean, we don't know this player. Maybe he is. But like, I just think we have so many You have so many nines.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's a good point. And I don't know why I wasn't thinking of the nine so much. I was more. I guess I was. If I'm thinking of my range that way, then I'm probably not constructing my flop checking back range correctly, is what I would say. So that's kind of
Possibly.
the which is a good insight to have either way. But anyway, I call because I'm like I don't have any better hands, and I'm blocking nines. He's got nothing, and he shows king nine offsuit.
Wow, he has a nine.
So he yeah.
You know, I mean, here's the thing too. Like, there's sort of two different schools of thought about this. Like on the one hand, like his story doesn't make much sense, and you can just be like, I don't think your story makes sense. I'm gonna call. But on the other hand, like, so that's like the sort of exploitative mindset, maybe. But like, it's not exactly exploitative. But the other thing about it though is like you can just think about it as from a pure math standpoint. It's like I just have so many better hands to call with here, so I fold. Like even if he's bluffing me, like so what? This isn't a profitable bluff. So.
Yep, absolutely. And I made another big mistake this session to lose my first buy-in with just a terrible flop call against a check raise. Where afterwards I was like, oh yeah, I do have like so many better hands that I could have called with that are like not this one.
Yeah.
It just is, that is definitely something that I just need to continue thinking about, especially as, if I do continue to play at sort of slightly higher stakes than 1-3 and see, I mean, definitely one thing I noticed right away is people are absolutely using bigger bet sizings relative to the size of the pot. Like, you know how it is in 1-3, people will be like 50, like they think it's just a ton of money and they're betting like, a fifth of the pot or something.
Yeah.
And it's so, whereas, I think that happens a lot less as you move up in stakes and people actually start thinking about the game, but also are just like, willing to make bigger bets and like have a little more gamble in them as well. So definitely important to start, continue thinking about where in your range you're at. And I can have nines.
Yeah.
Easy peasy. See,
you can have
that's
nines, you can have boats. So.
I'm glad I talked about this hand because I think that helps me think about, my range construction.
Cool. That's what we're here to help each other believe we suck less.
And bring you all some entertainment as you all can now, shake your heads and unsubscribe from me making this call.
Unsub. What a terrible poker player.
Yep. Hey, I deserve it.
Well, as advertised.
We're not called Bankroll Builders.
That's right. Yeah, our podcast name has people asking us a lot of questions that are answered by our podcast.
Right. Don't you guys think you're good at poker? Well, no. Anyway, let's move on and move 1,000 miles south.
Yeah, so here we are in Florida. This is from my bankroll burning session yesterday. This is an 8-handed game. This is one of the best tables I have ever been at in my short poker life. It was me and two regs who I like, so they're like cool dudes. I'm happy to play with, even though like I'm like they're probably better players than I am. Like I'm just happy to play with like fun people.
Yeah, I absolutely agree.
And then there was like one nit, and then there were 4 action players. So it was a great table.
Awesome.
And we had for several rounds going. We were playing 2-5-10 plus a $20 blind raise. Best Bet Orange Park unfortunately doesn't allow double straddles. We were just doing $20 blind.
Nice.
Blind raise. Yeah, really epic. So great times. So this is one of those hands. So we were playing 2-5-10-20. And I have about 1,000 in front of me. A little less. I'm going to call it 1,000 though, because I don't remember the exact number. And it's not super relevant. So about 1,000 in front of me, and which is, mind you, not that many big blinds. It's
right.
About 50 big blinds. So bear that in mind. I don't think people were really adjusting to that. I think people were probably playing more like we were deeper than we actually were, but just worth noting.
Yeah, always something that I've been trying to keep in mind a bit more recently is, if there are straddles and you're actually playing, less than 100 big blinds deep, you could actually start adjusting more towards like high card power and like, being, just being able to stack off with one pair and accepting the variance versus, if that straddle wasn't on and you're like 200 big blinds deep and now you want to play more like nut making hands.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's a huge adjustment.
Definitely notice people don't do that. Like, people are still calling 3 bets at 2-5-10-20 with like 7-8 suited. Then they're good. That's good exploit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, I want to preface this. I played this hand badly, like for sure.
Well,
This is a bad
we
one.
just
So
got off a big punt call from me, so
yeah.
we haven't a nice old fashioned bankroll burning.
Well, I just want to. The reason I'm saying that is I want to say, like, as I explain myself, I'm not attempting to justify myself. I'm
Yep,
assuming.
that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I go through that quite often where, we hop on this podcast and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, my reasoning for this hand was not right.
Yeah.
So, or, even before then. So,
Sometimes even before then. So
yeah, so absolutely. So, no need to justify it. We're here to learn and laugh at each other.
okay, so we are in the low jack, which is first to act in 2, 5, 10, 20.
Sure.
And
You didn't put on the $40 blind, you nit?
I did not. We did have there was one hand where one of the regs got down to super short. He only had 200 in front of him. And instead of capping off, I mean, he had more binds behind, but instead of capping off, I put in the 20. He was to my left. He put in the 200.
Wow.
So, and we were playing a good game. Yeah. So we were having a good time. But
Okay, so we're in LJ, which is first to act. And what do we look down at?
we looked down at 10-9 of hearts, which I think from this depth can be folded sometimes. But I like to open it. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, I will. Let me preface this by saying I haven't studied my my double straddled pot ranges. But yeah, I mean it's 50 big blinds. We're like pretty close to the button, but so I'd probably still open here. And like also it is important to like give action in
For sure.
these
In a
games
game
with
like
like action players double straddling.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm definitely happy. I mean, this I think it's probably right where, people will say if you want to like play a little bit tighter and a little bit closer to optimal, like you can cut out some of these suit connectory hands from early position, and definitely especially as you get shallower. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that it's supposed to be folded or, folded most of the time. But either
Can't
way.
be that bad.
No, right. Well, it probably can be.
Probably can be. Okay, well, we open it up to $60. And it folds all the way around to the second blind.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, to the straddle. Folds to the straddle.
Okay.
Who is a loose passive player who makes
Okay.
the call. And then a good reg makes the call in the blind raise.
Double straddle calls as well. I'm just gonna call it the double straddle for fun. Yeah. So there's like $200 in the pot.
Ish. Yep.
940.
Yeah.
Oops, 940-ish behind. We're off to a flop 3 ways, and we are in position, and that's kind of one of the things. That's kind of the other part about opening hands like this from when there's a ton of straddles on because you're close to the button, and so and the people behind you are like less incentivized to call because they don't have any money in. So you might just like buy yourself position, which is always like not. It's fine, right?
It's nice.
It's good. It's better than not having position.
That's for sure. It's very better. Okay, so yeah, close to 200 in the pot. It's like 190. And excuse me. And the flop comes Jack of Clubs, 6 of Hearts, Deuce of Hearts.
Nice. So we got a flush draw and back pretty okay backdoor straight draw.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I'm happy with this flop. And so it checks to me. I think I like a bet here. What do you think?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this is another spot you can probably mix some amount. Like, I definitely want to bet, all like my nut flush draws a lot more, build the pot because like we're always good when we hit. Hand like 9-10 of hearts is one that you would probably mix in checking just because like you might like your flush is not always good.
Right.
So
I mean, we're pretty shallow to be worried about getting flush over flushed here, I will say.
Yeah, that's true. And I'm happy to bet here. I like betting flush draws.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. This could probably be checked sometimes, but I think I'm going to be betting it most of the time.
Yep.
Maybe that's not right, but I think I will usually bet this hand, and I do bet. I bet 60.
Hey,
I think
there's
I can go a
no
little
right.
small.
There's only what feels right.
Yeah, exactly.
Not true. Bad advice, everybody. All right, checks to us, and I assume we bet kind of small because we're multi-way.
Yeah, I go 60. I think I could go smaller, but I did bet 60.
I think 60. I mean, I think 60 is fine. I probably wouldn't go any. I don't really like going much smaller than a third when there are like some number of draws. Even like multi-way, like because there are,
there's heart draws out there. I mean, I'm obviously blocking a lot of them. But there's heart draws out there. There's some straight type stuff.
Yep.
5-4, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I think I could have gone a bit smaller. But I do bet 60, and we get 2 calls. So
both players call. Wow. Well, that's not great.
No, I don't like it very much.
So
I will say that I am very having played a bit with the straddler. I'm pretty cognizant that they can be quite wide. I will say.
Sure. I mean, if people are putting on the straddle and the double straddle, they can certainly feel priced in with like. I mean, they could have something like Jack 6 suited. Is that kind of what you're saying? Like 2 pairs are maybe on the table.
2 pairs are absolutely on the table. But I what I actually mean is he can be calling quite wide posts. Like he doesn't have to be very strong here. Actually,
I see. Okay, that's kind of helpful to recognize. But he could be overcalling, or the straddle, I guess, is not overcalling. But he could be calling with a guy left behind with like a random 6 or maybe even a random deuce or something like that.
Exactly. Like he absolutely should be folding those hands from a theoretical perspective. I don't think this player is. So.
Okay.
The turn now is the 8 of clubs.
Okay, so we improve our equity
to an open ender, and there's now a second flush draw out there.
Sure.
Now, so here's where I want to talk a bit. So this one, I should have mentioned this earlier. This is where it starts to get weird because of stack sizes. So I said I have 1,000, and the good reg covers me, but the straddler has started the hand with only 500, so is now down to just
350.
350, yeah.
Okay, I'll note that down. So straddler has 350. We have 880-ish, and the double straddler covers us. Yes,
but the straddler should have 380.
Okay, so they've got basically a pot size bet bottom.
Yeah. So that's important. I should have mentioned it earlier but we are quite deep, or not quite deep, but we have to consider both stack sizes.
Sure. Okay, and does it check to us again?
It checks to us again, and this is where I think I was pretty stuck on what to do due to the stack sizes. So, and I mean, I also think checking's on the table here, by the way. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's hard to go wrong in a spot like this. Like when you have so much equity, it's like basically with a hand like this, I think that it's hard to go wrong. Like we have so much equity, it's like we have 10 high, so it's a great bluffing candidate. But like we have 2 players, and like they both called our flop bet, and so it's probably okay to like check back and realize the equity. But I think I just want to bet. Like I think I just want to keep betting. Like our hand just is like a perfect bluff candidate. We may even be able to like rep clubs if they come in sometimes. Like it kind of gives us like the texture of the board also just gives us a lot of good like rivers to like triple barrel.
Sure.
If we don't make our hand. So yeah, I'm probably more on board with betting. I don't really know how to size multi-way on the turn.
Yeah, I mean, here's the considerations. So like we could bet a third pot, and then like a third to 40% pot, and then if the short stack calls and the other player folds, then we'll have like I think basically another roughly 40% pot left behind, like ish.
Sure.
So we can like kind of go geometric.
Yeah.
And then another option is we could pot it. So basically put the short stack all in or fold. Right. And then if we can get a heads up with the guy who we're deep with, and then plan to just triple barrel rivers with, that's something they half pot jam.
Right.
But yeah, I think either of those options is probably okay. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think I just like, I mean, what value, what do you think you're doing with like, pocket jacks here? Or like an overbear?
I probably would rather take the smaller.
Because I obviously heads up. This is like a great board to like bet quite large.
Yeah, for sure. Heads up, I'm overbetting this board.
So maybe we should be sizing up because there's like so many draws, and maybe that means we bet like. But then it's weird. Like maybe we just kind of like ignore the short stack and bet like, 2/3 or 75% or something, and then if he jams, we just like have to snap call it off.
Right.
Maybe that's a consideration of just sizing up, but still not quite going full pot because we're not supposed to multi-way. But as I said, multi-way turn sizing is not one of my most studied theory aspects.
Yeah, I really don't know what we're supposed to do here. Like, this is like multi-way, dealing with different stack sizes multi-way has been a bane for me lately. But I actually did end up doing what you suggested, which I think is probably not very good for reasons we will soon see. But I did do that. I did just bet 2/3. I bet 250.
Okay. And it is, I see your point with the stack sizes that maybe because there's a shallow guy, we should just like bet 380, like bet his stack.
Just put his stack in, even though it's kind of weird. Like, because it's not really an overbet. It's like betting pot. So.
Right.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I do just take this 2/3 sizing. He does call. He just calls, and then the double straddler folds.
Okay. So I mean, but like that's fine. I think like that is like a fine result.
Well, now he has 130 behind.
Right. But it's like we just like we always realize our equity. Like we will wind up, unless we hit a 9 or a 10, we will either wind up with a nothing or a very strong hand.
Right.
And then we just get to either like check back. Like we obviously can never bluff the river.
Well, this is the question. So the river comes now to king of spades.
Okay, so let me quickly. So we bet 250. But we're now only like 130 effective. Like right.
Correct,
so
yes.
So we added 5. So we got 870 in the pot, but we're really only 130 effective with the short stack.
Yeah, and so to be clear, for those just listening, we have 10-9 of hearts. We opened first to act. We got 2 callers, both who are out of position to us. The flop came Jack 6 deuce with 2 hearts and a club. The turn was the 8 of clubs, giving us an open ender to go with our flush draw after we had bet flop and went call. So now, and then we bet turn again, and we got 1 caller. We're now 870 in the pot. We're 130 effective, and the river is the king of spades.
Okay, and then what does he do?
He checks.
Yeah, I just think we have to check back.
I thought so too, but I do wonder, like, if this bluff ever works, it's insanely profitable.
But I think it like doesn't ever. Like, is he ever gonna fold a jack?
Well, why the hell is he calling with 130?
People just like, I don't know. I cannot explain people's short stack decisions.
Okay.
But I don't know. I mean, I see your point that like if we bet 130 into 870 and he folds like a tenth of the time, then we've made a profitable bluff.
Yes.
But and I don't like maybe the king is enough of a scare card, but like it really shouldn't be. Like we really shouldn't be structuring our range this way with many random kings.
Yeah, I'm trying to think like what kings do we even have?
Like maybe king queen of club. No, because king queen of clubs, like king 2 overs and a double backdoor kind of deal.
And king queen of hearts, both of them were fine.
But I just don't think there's that many king X's that we should be doing this with. So I mean I don't know, if you think he's gonna fold 10% of the time, then like by all means blast away, and because like it does look like an insanely like, oh no, why would anyone ever bluff here for 130? But I just don't think someone's like ever folding a hand that they've gotten here with. Like I don't know. Like
unless they had themselves like if they have like an ace high heart draw.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. But like are they calling the turn with an ace high heart draw?
Probably. I would think they would just stick it in.
But I guess I would think that if someone is calling and leaving themselves 1/8 pot size bet behind, then they certainly might be the same type of player to do so with a draw.
Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I mean, I gave up. But this is the thing, is like I really did start to wonder because he rolls over Jack 7 offsuit.
Wow. Wow. I mean, I don't know. I think so much of his range is Jack X that just should like never fold.
Yeah.
But like maybe he would fold because it's like, wow, he's really gonna jam here. Like, damn, I guess I have to fold now. Oh, you hit that king, didn't ya?
Yeah.
Live poker.
I know, it's just so lame. Like, I think this is why I say I think it really was a mistake to bet the sizing I did on the turn. I think I needed to either go pot or go like 40%. I
Yeah.
think that the nice thing about going pod is then we can play for stacks with the deep player if they call, versus if we go 1/3, we're never getting stacks in.
Yes, that's true, but then the other side is setting up the double barrel, setting up the triple barrel against the short stack. If he's the one that calls, is also something. So
Yeah, and
I
he
don't know.
should
It's weird because
theoretically be stronger here than that. So I don't know. I really don't know what I was supposed to do. I think definitely not what I did, but
right.
I don't know which of I think probably either of those two options is it's at least better than what I did, but I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a really, really weird spot, and like obviously we do. Maybe we are just supposed to jam Riffer because you're right. He could just have some like random ace highs.
Yeah.
Or like he called it like he might fold an 8 if he's he had I don't know if he had some sort of 8x of hearts, he might fold an 8 even to that tiny sizing. So maybe I do like jamming River. Maybe you've convinced me that like wow, it really doesn't have to work at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
So we
All
lost.
Right.
Well,
anyway,
unfortunate.
very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. Badly played. So we are going to bring on our guest now. So we'll be right back. All right, everyone. Welcome back. We are here with our friend, our returning guest, Corn. How's it going, Corn?
Great. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm really excited about this because you texted us almost a month ago to the day, right after you played this hand you're going to be talking about, and you're like, "I just played a sick hand."
Oh man! All right, you're hyping up the hand a little bit too much. Yeah, I was really excited. I don't even realize it's been a full month since I played the hand. I thought it was like 2 weeks ago, but
well, it's super exciting. We're always excited to have guests on. Pretty much every guest we've had on has just brought like an insane hand. Like our first guest, I don't remember who our first guest was, but they brought this. Yeah, they brought this hand where they lost to 4 deuce suited, and ever since then it just keeps getting better. So super excited to have you on again, and look forward to the hand.
Yeah.
But before we do get into the hand, we have a question for you. Have you done a lot of have you traveled to different casinos around the country very much?
Not really. So I'm 22, so I haven't been playing live for very long. So I mainly play at MGM up in Maryland, National Harbor. I have been to Vegas once. It was a short trip though, so I only played in the Bellagio and the Wynn. And then like a few card rooms here and there, but not a ton of traveling.
So I have heard there is very little, or are very little, like card rooms in like the Mid-Atlantic region. I've heard there's like 1 or 2 in West Virginia, and then like a few in Maryland, and then none in the Carolinas.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So there's one in Charlestown, West Virginia.
Okay.
That's been around for a while, and then of course MGM, I think went up around 2016. But I think, they just changed this, but gambling was illegal in Virginia, and I think North Carolina, South Carolina too. Not entirely sure about that, but they just made a new casino in Portsmouth, Virginia, very recently.
So gambling is probably no longer illegal.
Yeah, it's been kind of they're making efforts to put more casinos. But yeah, not a ton of places to go to. Like I commute about an hour to MGM in Maryland.
Yeah, I mean, you would think like if it's a fresh new casino, that like the games have got to be pretty soft. I would guess down in Portsmouth.
Yeah, I haven't been to Portsmouth, but a few of my friends have, and they said the games are pretty good. There used to be a card room in Richmond called Pops. That was kind of like a underground, not kind of like it was through a loophole of like, the law in Virginia. Basically said it was a tournament that you could cash out of. So it's like some loophole. But they got shut down. So all those players now play in Portsmouth.
Well, gamblers are nothing if not innovative. I mean, look at the Texas loophole.
For sure, yeah.
We're not a poker room charging rake. We're a social club with a membership fee, and what our members do is none of our business.
Yeah.
Except on our live stream.
And the dealers and decor, but whatever. That's interesting to hear. I kind of thought the minute I've heard a lot about MGM National Harbor, and assumed that that was, the centerpiece of a nice mix of places. But
Oh yeah. No, my favorite thing about that place is they don't let you smoke inside.
oh, it's amazing. Now, I
Yeah.
my home casino is Encore Boston Harbor, which is also a new room and is non-smoking, and it's just
Yeah, I think that's
very nice.
probably one of the better rules they're implementing because, like, I don't know about you, but if I'm next to someone and they're smoking, I get like a headache and
Well,
I'm not
most
enjoying it at all.
most casinos at least all the casinos that I've been to, even the ones that do allow smoking, do not in the poker room.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
So
been my experience as well.
Yeah,
it
it might
is
be
still
the
annoying to like walk to the cage or the bathroom or something, and you walk past like people, like a row of people smoking at a slot machine or something. But have
Mhm.
not run into people smoking next to me at a poker table. I think I would
Yeah, for sure.
get a table change immediately.
Definitely people occasionally vaping at my table, though. I will say, I've definitely run into that, even though it is definitely not allowed. But
Well, it smells
Um,
better
I
at
don't
least.
mind vaping.
anyway, all right. So let's get into this hand. Is this another hand out of MGM?
Yes. So I was playing 2-5 in this hand. I believe this was I think Thursday or Friday night. So it was a pretty, from what I remember, it was a good action night.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I mean, with so many bigger games in that room, you would think that
for
like
sure,
the 2-5
yeah.
game is.
MGM,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've played a bit of 5-10, and they always have the straddle on, so 5-10-25. I played a bit of 10-25, and I've talked to a lot of players there, and they run like a 25-50 in the back room, but people are putting on quadruple straddles, and then they'll actually do an 8-way 1K pillow flip every dealer change.
Oh my God.
Wow.
And apparently, it's just a wild game. Like, people aren't afraid to just dump like 50K as a bluff and all this crazy stuff. So, at least from what I've heard, I can't confirm because I've never played it, but
Well, yeah. I mean, all I was kind of gonna say is like with so many bigger games in that room, like the 2-5 game's got to be really nice.
it is. Yeah, I would say so.
Well, that's great. I mean, it's always a little fun to play a stake below your normal one when you're waiting for a game and just kind of splash around a bit and like take advantage
for
of people
sure.
who you're just like, wow, these are not regs. That's amazing.
Yeah, very few pros at 2-5, because all the pros play higher because they can.
Right.
So what's the depth here?
All right, so we are 1K effective in 2-5, but I consider 1K more like, I don't know, 130 bigs instead of 200 bigs, just because everyone's opening to 20 or 25.
Sure, it's very fair.
And yeah, so yeah, we're 1K effective. Under the gun, who is kind of like he was a younger guy. He had a Stanford sweatshirt on. Looked like he was in his 20s.
Crusher.
This is important for the hand, by the way. He opens to 15. They hijack calls. I'm in the button with 7-6 of clubs, and I decide to 3-bet. I raise to 75. Under the gun. Oh yeah. Well,
Yeah. So it goes 15 call. You squeeze. Obviously, you're pretty incentivized to squeeze here in position with rather than just calling with there being a field caller in there. I mean, I guess a couple of questions. If there was no field caller, are you mostly calling this hand, or mostly 3-betting, or are you folding it sometimes? Like, what's sort of your
I think without the caller, I could probably mix in some calls. I don't really like calling with 7-6. I'd like to just take it down if I can. And I definitely hate going multi-ways with a hand like 7-6. A lot of people think like, oh, I have a lot of implied odds with my suited connectors, but it's kind of the opposite because your flushes are dominated and your pairs are dominated most of the time.
Is this guy like the only guy who's opening to 15? Because I know you had just said a minute ago that most people are opening to 20 or 25. So are you do you read anything into that?
So my read on this guy was he knew what he was doing. He seemed like a reg, because him and I, we were the only ones opening to 15 at the table. Everyone else was either 20 or 25 or limping.
Okay.
And he's a young guy. I'm gonna assume he's gonna know some. And he was playing pretty tight too. I didn't see him get out of line. I didn't see him table any garbage hands or anything.
If he's playing tight and he knows what he's doing and he's opening under the gun and there's a field caller in there, I mean, is there any consideration to just mucking here?
There is, yeah. I just felt like I wanted to gamble with this hand.
That's fair. No. I mean, look.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you should probably be 3-betting here at least sometimes. I'm just wondering, is this like a pure 3-bet for you, or are you like, well, versus tight, aggressive
Yeah,
guy?
I mean, he was also folding a lot to 3-bets, so
Oh, okay, well there you go.
Yeah,
I felt
lot.
like, I could take it down here.
Sure.
Decent squeeze spot.
Cool. Yeah,
Okay.
I like the 3-bet a lot. So what does the under the gun player do?
Okay, so we 3-bet to 75. That was 5x. He 4-bets to 250.
Okay.
Okay.
So about a quarter of a stack. Actually, exactly a quarter of a stack. The hijack gets out of the way, and I figured, we have the ace crackers. We have the best hand against aces. We'll call.
We do have the ace crackers.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And
But we're gonna have 750 behind, so we're gonna have like 1.5x pot behind, right?
Yeah.
I think I feel like this could get some sticky situations though, where we're like, we might be. It's gonna be hard. We're not gonna be able to play a 3-street game with these
for sure.
this SPR.
Yeah.
With our hand that really wants to play a 3-street game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna have to go with a lot of draws and like pair plus draws and like stuff that we don't really feel comfortable going with. But like at this point, it's like we won't really have a decision.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, as long as we're all comfortable with that, then let's do it.
Sometimes you just gotta gamble.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. Yeah. I think I would be very tempted to call here and probably would, but I think probably in theory this is supposed to be a fold.
Yeah. And usually like I don't 3-bet the 7-6, the 8-9 suited or whatever. But when I do, I feel like I want to call a 4-bet. Just because I don't 3-bet them very often.
Hey, it's 2-5. You're a 5-10 crusher. Like, throw some money in the pot and crack some aces.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So the flop is 10 of diamonds, 7 of hearts, 5 of hearts.
So this is one of those flops that we were a little worried about, where we kind of flopped a pair and a bunch of some decent backdoors.
We're like, ooh, don't love this flop. Don't hate it. Definitely worse flops, but we don't love it because it's one of these marginal spots, and we probably have to see it turn.
Oh yeah.
So
I mean, if he goes huge here, I actually will say if he goes huge here, I think we might be able to fold some hands here. But I don't know. I don't know if that's right.
No, I think that is right. But like, it's also hard for him to go huge because of the pot and the stack sizes. Like, you basically have to. If we think he kind of knows what he's doing, then huge would mean like a jam. So he's probably not going to do that. One would imagine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and my read, like him being a reg, was also what inclined me to call because I believe this player has 4-bet bluffs in his range as well, or he's capable of 4-bet bluffing.
Yeah, and a lot of his 4-bet bluffs have like pretty good equity. Like he might have like ace 5 with which has a pair, or he might have ace x of hearts, like some other random like suited hearts that could have connected here. So definitely reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
It's also worth noting like he probably shouldn't be 4-betting 10s here. I think you have more 10s than him. Like I think 10s, given that it was he raised it under the gun. 10s is going to be near the bottom of his opening range, so that might be called. But I think you might have something of a nut advantage on this board. Like you also probably have more like 7s, right? So we're 10-7-5, right? So you probably have more.
I'm gonna have way more ace 10s, pocket 7s, pocket 5s, pocket 10s in my range. He's gonna have obviously all the overpairs, but he's also gonna have a few ace highs and king highs.
Yeah, I mean. Oh, go ahead, Josh.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you probably don't have too much pocket 5s. You're probably supposed to fold that, but I think like 7s and 10s you can definitely have. So I think you might have a nut advantage on sport. So he really shouldn't go very big if he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. So he ends up going 125, which is a quarter pot.
Yeah, and this is interesting because this is like not a board he should really be going like this small on.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think 125 is fine. He's gonna charge all of my, my ace queens are gonna float. My ace king has to float. Even maybe like king jack suited, king jack of diamonds, kind of hands. Just the 10 sort of connects with the Broadway hands, and I don't want to see a turn. And he also kind of wants to get to a turn for cheap. Doesn't really love getting raised here.
Yeah, I actually agree with you. I think his sizing is appropriate. I mean, I think 1/3 is also fine, but I wouldn't go. I think like because you kind of have a nut advantage. I think it would be a mistake for him to bet like 2/3 or something on the
Oh,
swap. So it's
I agree with that. I just think going like a quarter, going like super small, and I guess a quarter isn't super small, but going like any smaller on a board like this, I think would also be like a mistake.
Yeah, and also we have 500 in the middle, so SPR is already pretty low.
Yeah, the one thing about the sizing is it definitely does set up a turn jam.
Yeah, a turn jam or even like a turn like 20% bet and the river jam. Just it helps him get in the money easier with the small bet.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so he bets 125. We're going nowhere with our second pair. We can improve a lot. There's a lot of turns that help us. Like an 8. We have a backdoor double gutter.
Would you raise here with a set?
I think I would probably mix with the set. Just because the size is very I feel like a lot of players would want to go this size with their marginal hands as opposed to their overpairs. And if he bets turn, then I can raise turn and probably just get it in easier.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think playing your whole range as a call here makes a lot of sense, honestly. Like, if you would just never raise, just because you're in position, the SPR is so low, it's like, let him blast off if he's going to blast off, right?
Yeah. And, I mean, there's a flush draw, but if you think there's not really a ton of flushes he can have.
No, God,
not a ton of flush draws he will have here.
Not going to worry about that too much, right?
Yeah, so...
Yeah, I'm with Mike. I think calling your whole range here makes a lot of sense, like a lot of the time, because also like all your like what you would raise as bluffs are just like priced in to call.
Yeah, and he's gonna just jam all of his overpairs against my bluff, so it doesn't really make sense to bluff here either.
Right.
I feel like the hands I would raise here would be raise get it in hands, so like 8-9 of hearts, or sets, or ace-10 or something like that.
Sure.
Okay.
That all makes sense. So so it sounds like you call, and what's the turn?
So the turn is an interesting card. It's the Jack of Diamonds. So now there's 2 flush draws and another overcard to our pair.
Okay.
So
yeah, I don't love it.
Yeah, we kind of really hate this card because he can jam a lot here, and we're like, oh well, there's some draws. Ace King, Ace Queen are still, we're ahead of those, but like. They have equity, and he could have turned sets here, but he tanks for probably like 30 seconds and then checks, and that's kind of a tell to me. So he bets flop. The turn is this like juicy, action-heavy card. He decides to check, and so I guess in a way like. It's not alarm bells. I guess the opposite of alarm bells are going off in my head.
You think he's weak?
It's like the dinner bell. It's like, come on in, take my money.
Yeah.
But also, he could have turned top pair, ace jack, king jack, some queen jack, and he could be checking his ace tens, his whatever 10x he has.
Trying to get to showdown with some of those like one pair
I don't
hands.
know. I've never played with this player before, so I don't know exactly what his 4-bet range would look like. This is also the first time he's 4-bet me, so kind of in the dark about exploits and that sort of thing. But we decided to check behind. I don't see any merit in betting. We only get called by better, and we probably don't even pull out 15.
It's interesting. I wonder if he'd check back a hand like aces with like a diamond and a heart. That's just like blocking a bunch of the draws, so he doesn't feel too concerned about it. And then
another thing I was thinking about, like he could be checking his queens here,
Queens,
maybe kings too, because if you have queens here and you perceive my range as just tens, jacks, aces, kings, maybe ace king, like you're not really loving it with queens either.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean. Yeah, it's sort of like so we're looking at a pot of 750-ish, and you guys have, you have about a pot size bet behind, not even less actually. You have a 625 behind. So, I mean, I don't know that he on a card like this that's like wettens the board so much. I guess for a better term, like he probably doesn't have any sizing besides all in.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what
Right.
I.
There's
That's
probably
what
no like small bet line with this run out. You know,
Mhm.
he probably just has to either shove or check. So
Yeah, especially with
I
under
mean,
pot behind.
it's like, what would he? Yeah, I think like he's probably supposed to check some nutted hands here sometimes. Maybe, I don't know. I'm a bit lost. Like, what strong hands? I think you're right, Josh. Like eight, like red aces probably checks, but like, what else are you supposed to check from like a strong hand standpoint? That's like
Mhm.
trapping or more like just trying to balance the checking range a bit.
I mean,
I don't know.
like 8-9 if he four bet with like
8-9. Yeah,
8-9
that is a
suited.
hand.
That's sick. But
I
yeah,
feel like 8-9 would also just get it in.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel like
you would
most players
think
aren't.
maybe 8-9 with like a heart or diamond draw, so it's like less concerned about the draws. But like, I would think that like sets and straights, if he has any, just wanna pile the money in at this
Yeah,
point.
even
Well,
like I don't know. If I was in his shoes, I would probably just get it in with like ace jack,
sure.
queen.
Yeah.
You know, if he has kings, GG. But you know,
Yeah.
I'm never folding, and I can at least charge the very few heart draws that he might have, or even ace king. I feel like ace king of hearts, ace king of diamonds would have to call here.
Yeah, it's surprising to me that he doesn't jam this card. I'm inclined to agree with you. Like this kind of feels more like you might be thinking like a 10, right? Like ace 10 that just kind of wants to get to showdown and isn't comfortable jamming.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he could also be afraid that you've made a set now. Like, I think this card theoretically like is better for you in that you're gonna have jacks more than he. Although, like, because I really don't think he should 4-bet jacks. A lot of players would, but I don't think he's supposed to. So, I think this card is maybe he could perceive it as so much better for you, that this board in general is so much better for you that he's not supposed to jam even with strong hands. Like, and I don't know that that's right. I honestly am not sure. I think this is a pretty odd spot, but maybe he is checking a lot of. Maybe he's just like, I'm gonna check this with most of my range. I don't know.
Yeah. And so I decided to check back.
Yeah.
like I said,
Reasonable.
No, there's like no point betting here. I think we're just trying to get the showdown. We have a very marginal hand. We don't really improve in a lot of ways. Like our 6 might even be dead. But like we can really only improve with like another 7. So I check back, and the river is a blank. It's like let's say a deuce. I don't remember what the river was, to be honest, but it was a complete brick.
Deuce of
Probably
clubs.
deuce of clubs.
But
Love-
deuce of clubs.
Okay.
And he thinks for a while again, probably about 30 seconds to a minute, and then he bets 400, leaving about like 225, 250 back.
What?
And I'm confused. I'm like, what is going on? This makes absolutely no sense to me.
Maybe you're starting to rethink that he's a competent reg.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah, but like maybe he is just doing this with like a 10, right? Like maybe ace 10. He's like, oh, he checked back. He doesn't have a jack or pocket jacks or something. So I'm just gonna try and eke out a teeny bit of value from like your pocket 9s or pocket 8s or worse 10s. I mean that you somehow show up here with.
yeah, but I feel like I would go smaller with.
I would agree.
If I'm
Like,
trying
just
to get
block.
called by that. Like,
Yeah,
why would
like
I-
200.
Why would I leave 200 behind?
No, I mean,
Um,
I agree with Josh. Like 200, even like 150. Like you could bet. I mean,
I would
150 is
bet
20% pot. He could even bet like 100, get really cute. I don't know. Like
Mhm.
this is a weird. I feel like this is never a bluff. Also, I don't know. It's weird to me that like it's never like a pure airball. I guess.
Right, like is he doing this with ace king? Like that would be bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But do
Yeah,
you disagree here?
So I was super confused. I went into the tank for maybe like 3 or 4 minutes, and I think my thought process was he would probably. I don't think he's capable of like betting a 10 here. I feel like he would bet a jack on the turn as well, and he seemed very nervous as well, just by his body language and by the speed of which he bet. And honestly, like I think in the live environment, 4-bet ranges are just way tighter than online. And
That's for sure.
players know that, because most of the time you get 4-bet live, it's almost always aces or kings, sometimes ace king, sometimes queens, right? Obviously that changes as you get higher because the players get better, but I think from his point of view, I'm I have all the nuts here, and I feel like he would check queens here, um, and so when he bets 400, I'm I'm just really confused because I feel like he would jam kings, he would jam aces.
But if he kind of perceives you as having all the nuts, then like why would he be bluffing a lot on this
That's true.
board?
Yeah, that's another point.
But why? Also, you say you think you bet a jack, but not queens.
Well, I would bet it. I feel like betting ace jack is better than betting queens here. Blocking jacks.
I agree. I agree with you.
They're basically the same hand. I mean, they're just one up on the queens is just the next best hand compared to ace jack. And so I'm tanking. And I'm just thinking about the turn. This line makes no sense. He would jam all of his value, wouldn't he? I feel like he would, like his only size here should be jam. I don't understand
Right.
why he would bet 400.
I actually think I think he can have a block sizing too, but this
Yeah,
like I just think this
That's true.
sizing makes
Yeah.
literally no sense.
I could see. I mean, I could see like a live player here having like an overpair in this situation where they just kind of got nervous and checked the turn because they're like, oh, I got called on the flop. I don't know where I bet to see where I'm at, and now I don't know. And then they bet the river because they just like think they're ahead and they choose a weird sizing. But I would agree that you're probably rethinking your characterization of this player at this point. But
for sure, yeah.
but I don't know. I feel like I could see a player taking this line with an overpair, like checking back turn, like checking turn, and then once you check back, being like, oh, I guess I have the best hand, but if I shove, he's gonna fold, so I'm gonna bet this much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's also interesting. Like, do you think about it? Obviously, if you have queens plus here, you're always just calling, right? Are you ever shoving queens plus over this
No,
bet?
no, I'm just flicking it in with queens. If he has better hand, GG. But like
I guess probably with aces, you probably jam too, right?
aces, yeah. Well, aces, I probably would have jammed turn.
Okay, fair enough. So you're just gonna call with queens and kings probably, and with ace 10, if you have ace 10 here, you probably also just call, I imagine.
Probably just call with ace 10, ace jack.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a question of like, it sounds like you have a lot of calls here, so you don't need to call with this hand. I don't know if you're contemplating a call or a bluff raise here though. So why don't you tell us what you're thinking here?
So I contemplated all three options. And I figured jam doesn't really accomplish much, because he's probably not gonna even fold. He's not gonna fold any pair jam.
Probably shouldn't.
He shouldn't. That would be very dumb, but on his part. And then fold, obviously, but also everything missed, and I feel like, well, then again, he doesn't have a ton of flush draws, but like his ace king, his ace queens missed, and I don't know. The clock gets called on me. So the 4-man comes over, says, you have 60 seconds, blah blah blah, and I'm still like, I still have no idea what to do, and so clock's ticking down, and I figured, you know what, I tend to call a lot when I'm in these game time decisions, so I just, I flick it in. I figured, he can have ace king, he can have ace queen. There's a bunch of combos of those. I think that this player would play those way. We'd also play maybe ace 5 this way.
Ooh, that'd be sick.
And yeah, so we call, and he shakes his head, and I'm like, let's go, and he flips over king queen.
Wow.
King queen of clubs.
Wow.
So he turned an open ender, and I think he just kind of thought, okay, this draw is kind of good enough, a little too marginal to want to bet again.
But then why would you bet flop?
And why would he bet? Like, it's a weird play because you would think, like, oh, he bet flop, picked up equity, and checked, and then bet again when he had no equity.
Yeah.
That's so bizarre.
Yeah, so he did have a bit of a tell, I think. And that's kind of why I wanted to share this hand, was because this is a terrible call. But just the way
that's what this podcast is for. It's for sharing terrible calls.
That's right.
And my read on this player was, well, one, he was young, probably about my age. He said he was going to college in NYU. Stanford sweatshirt was his girlfriend's, but he said he hasn't been playing poker for very long. Which kind of, but also at the same time, he's using proper sizings with his 4-bets and his c-bets. Like, I don't ever see a live 2-5 player, 4-bet to 250, that's the correct size, and then bet a quarter on the flop. It's almost always pot or like half pot or something.
Yeah.
And so that made me think, okay, he has 4-bet bluffs. I think he also knew that because there was that cold caller, he can 4-bet to squeeze. And I had been 3-betting a lot this session, and he's seen me 3-bet a lot. So I think he was 4-betting me light, which he kind of was.
I mean, was it king queen suited or king queen off?
King queen clubs.
King queen clubs. Okay, yeah. So then, okay. I mean,
just a little too merged to want to 4-bet king queen, I think.
It's interesting because also I feel like with king queen, I mean, if you had king queen in the spot on the river, I almost feel like you can like block bet king queen as a bluff just to fold out like ace highs.
Yeah.
So it's still a weird sizing from him, even kind of knowing what he has.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do with king queen.
Not put yourself in the position where you have to make that choice on the river.
I probably would just call the 3-bet with king queen.
Right.
Just go 3 ways, whatever.
I also just think that not betting turn there is so bad.
Yeah. And that's kind of what made me want to call. Was he thought for a really long time, or not a really long, I mean like a minute.
Right.
And then he checked. And that just screams like ace high, king high to me.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you got to go with your reads. That's one thing I rarely do in poker. I'm like, very autistic, so I can't read people.
And sometimes when I do it, I am just completely have misread the situation. So, good on you for getting it done, and great hand to finish off the show with.
Yeah, thank you.
Definitely a sick call, and yeah, appreciate you coming back on the show. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We'll definitely. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I hope my hand was worthy.
It was, and I hope you, our listeners, like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah, please tell us about some interesting calls you've made where you felt it was light, but you had that read. Teach us your ways, listeners, in the comment section. That's what we really need. All right. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.